Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, a Mangana man who started 3 Fingal Valley bushfires in late 2019 has been sentenced to 7 years in jail with a non-parole period of 4.5 years. The Supreme Court hearing there was no comparison for Robert Peter Matthewson's extreme crime.
Justice now served for the Black Summer fires that devastated the Fingal Valley. Robert Peter Matthewson sentenced to 7 years in jail after being found guilty of 3 counts of unlawfully setting fire to vegetation in 2019. Justice Brian Martin said the damage caused by the fires was enormous. You should be under no illusion about the high risk to life and the general community you caused. The third of the 3 fires started on the 30th of December and took 19 days to control. The blaze burnt over 22,000 hectares, with estimates the damage to forest industry assets was around $30 million. Defence counsel Fran McCracken told the court Matthewson had a troubled childhood, suffering abuse as he floated in and out of state care. He has 18 fire-related prior convictions. In regards to them, she said the 36-year-old didn't have a fascination with fire itself, but rather, as a result of his bad lot, he wanted to make others suffer as he had. She said Matthewson accepted that a significant sentence would be imposed, but I would ask that Your Honour accept that the extent of the fire was not the intention. The single sentence also included time for aggravated assault and firearms charges stemming from an incident in October last year. The court heard Matthewson rang police telling them he had a gun and was going to walk down the street and shoot somebody. Matthewson later told police the gun was a fake. The incident staged in the hope of authorities harming him, later telling them he abandoned the plan as he didn't want police officers to go through that shit. Matthewson will be eligible for parole in July 2025. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The sister of the woman who accused Labor MP David O'Byrne of sexual harassment says she does not have confidence in the internal investigation process into the matter. Independent MP Christy Johnston says her sister Rachel Midson made the decision to speak out to help other women, but has been left disappointed how her allegation has been handled.
She feels like she has been slut-shamed and certainly has no confidence in the investigation process itself. It's been really disappointing to see the impact this investigation has had on her. It's further traumatising her through the difficult time she's already had.
David O'Byrne previously said he believed the interactions were consensual at the time, but understands that was not the case. The party secretary says the investigation has not yet concluded. Tasmania's border has shut to the ACT as the territory enters a snap lockdown. It comes as another blow to struggling tourism and hospitality businesses, many now hoping the support package from the state government will be enough to help them through.
Coal River Farm spent 6 months preparing for Brisbane's Ekka Festival, only for it to be cancelled last minute due to lockdowns. Left with a pallet of perishable cheese, they made a plea to Tasmanians, who quickly responded.
It brought a tear to our eyes. We saw ourselves sell out of the stock that we had earmarked.
It's not the only challenge they're facing. Our borders closed right up the eastern seaboard. The ACT today added to that list. With no tourists coming in, they're hoping the business support package announced by the state government will be able to help keep them afloat.
So we've got essentially 80% of our market in lockdown. It obviously has about that impact.
The federal group reporting currently only 1 in 4 of their bookings are eventuating.
It's been a lot of cancellations. The weekends have been okay, but during the weeks has been really quiet.
Now launching their own vouchers to encourage people to stay at their accommodation.
Mac One and Henry Jones down in Hobart, we've offered people, anyone that books as a Tasmanian resident, they will receive free of charge $100 credit to use in food and beverage.
It comes as some Tasmanians have been left frustrated with the state government's travel voucher scheme, receiving a text congratulating them on being allocated a voucher, before receiving a second message informing them they'd been unsuccessful.
So I'm not aware of the reason for that, but I'm aware that there are an isolated number of cases where that's occurred, and if people have any doubt, my advice that I've been provided with is to encourage people to contact the email address or the 1800 number.
Preparations are now underway for the implementation of the government's 4-point Delta Shield plan.
Well, there'll be greater detail over the course of the next few days and week in terms of the logistics.
3 more Tasmanians have now been fined $778 for declaring false travel information on their Tassie travel passes. The penalty now set to double from Friday. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
The Caprona Football Club on the northwest coast is vowing to rise from the ashes after fire tore apart its clubrooms. Decades of memorabilia was lost, and there's fears they will be without a home for next season.
This was known as the Kennel, once the beating heart of the Caprona Football Club. Now it's flatlining.
I got inside those doors there and just cried. Because it's, so much work has gone into it to get it to where it was.
An accidental fire earlier this week, reducing the club rooms to ruins. A handful of charred premiership trophies were saved, but most of the priceless memorabilia perished.
It's the history that's been lost, and you can't get that back, Photos, like all the photos.
Rod Conway has been a loyal bulldog for close to half a century.
Absolutely devastating. It's a bit like, losing one of your best friends, I suppose.
It only adds to what has been a horror year on and off the field. Recruitment has proved challenging. Both senior sides won only one match between them, but this burns the most.
Upset, very upset. Just a massive letdown, really.
The club concedes it will take a monumental effort to rebuild these rooms, but they're optimistic it can be done before round 1 next year.
Of course, it's going to be hard work, but if we've got the people to do it, it'll be a challenge though.
The building is owned by council and is insured.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future is the most probably upsetting part.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government maintains it's meeting its 100-day education target. The Liberals committed $130 million for education in the recent state election, but the government admits the lack of relief teachers remains a pressing issue.
Yes, it is challenging, but it's important that in this case that the Department of Education, the government and indeed the Australian Education Union actually all work together.
Former Education Minister Jeremy Rockcliffe today officially opened a $1.6 million kindergarten at Sprayton Primary School. A new group home has opened for Tasmanians living with disabilities who are struggling to find cheap housing. The affordable site at Sorell offers rooms for 6 tenants, is easy to maintain, while equipped with support facilities and private ensuites. It's the second of 11 houses set to open this year by the SAA Trust, hoping to ease the demand for vulnerable locals seeking homes.
It's good. It's good. We're going to enjoy it. Love it.
It's a very affordable way of building houses and a very affordable way of renting them out. And we're hoping again we can work with the state, federal and local governments to try and get maybe another couple of hundred of these houses built over the next couple of years.
Approvals are in place for accommodation at Kingston, Bridgewater, Perth, Risdon Vale and Clarendon Vale. Some brave Tasmanians are currently rugging up to spend tonight out in the elements for the state's homeless. This year's Salvo sleepout seeing more than 85 people rest outdoors in Hobart, Glenorchy and Kingston. A few even suspended off the side of the Hotel Grand Chancellor to draw even more attention to homelessness. The fundraiser, Keeping Hobart's Street to Home program running, offers direct help to those sleeping rough.
It's important because of the engagement it gives people with the issue and with each other, where we discuss potential solutions and where we come together and do something practical that will mean that services can continue.
The event has surpassed its target of $60,000, now aiming to reach $75,000. Worrying dashcam footage has emerged online of a vehicle crashing into the safety barrier along the Midland Highway on Sunday. The RACT says the barrier potentially prevented a serious or even fatal head-on collision, but it's urging the public to avoid risky driving behaviour.
Including speeding and drink driving, inattention comes up strongly, and of course everyone blames the mobile phone for that.
The peak motoring body also reminding locals to fill out its survey by tomorrow to pass on road safety concerns to the state government.
The state of Windsor Park has come under scrutiny following days of rain and the Blues game against Glenorchy. Pies coach Paul Kennedy says inspections and protocols need to improve before grounds are ticked off as suitable.
We all know how much mud there was the week before. There'd just been sand dumped on top of the mud and it hadn't been flattened out, it was uneven. We had a player get injured in that sand, twisting his knee.
I know there was a little bit of commentary around it, and I'll just put that to bed a little bit. The boys put some sand on the ground to take the smell away, not to change the surface, and it held up really well.
Despite kicking 9 goals, Zach Morris looks poised to return to the backline when some of the Blues' main forwards return. The Hobart Hurricanes have signed 2 players ahead of the Big Bash season. Tasmanian player Caleb Jewell making his return on another 1-year deal after some impressive performances with the Tassie Tigers, while Western Australian pace bowler Joel Paris joins the Canes, leaving his hometown side, the Perth Scorchers.
I think he's in a really good space physically and skill-wise. You know, he made 100 last year. He got a 90 odd as well in Shield cricket. Took a lot of wickets, and you know, he's ready to go.
The season is set to kick off in December. The Jack Jumpers have landed their final international recruit for the upcoming season, with Canadian power forward Mikhail McIntosh set to bolster the offensive muscle. The 27-year-old comes with NBA G League experience, while he's also spent time in South Korea, Canada, Belgium and France, which he says will help him make an immediate impact.
I've been all around the world, so it's nothing new. I just know that what I need to come in with is just play as hard as possible, do what I do, and I think everything else will fall into place.
Head coach Scott Roth says the main roster is now complete, although 2 development players and a local player will be announced next week. A rule breach has given Devon the slightest chance of making the State Netball League finals, but the 2 clear frontrunners are hoping to pass the final regular rounds unscathed. So dominant are the Northern Hawks and Cavaliers, no other team in the competition has come close to beating them this season. And the best Cavaliers could manage so far against their crosstown rival is a draw.
We have played them 3 times now, so every game, you know, we learn a little bit more and a little bit more.
The heartache of last year's decider still raw. Cavs are ready to fire in the first round of finals, especially with Monique Duffy back from injury. The Hawks have had a rocky run with illness, but a feed of under-19 players helps cement the minor premiership.
It signifies how hard we've been working on our club culture.
A penalty to Arrows for playing an underage player means Devon has a sniff of making finals. But the Northwest side will need to win all 8 quarters in this weekend's final 2 games. The fact the side has lifted from easy beat to finals contender makes the players stand taller.
There was a little lull there in our history, but I think we've just kind of ignited a bit of a fire, particularly in our juniors, to think, wow, Devon can actually be the underdog and then come out and potentially win in a couple of years' time.
Cripps Waratah has a lock on third, a full squad and the fire to beat the best come the pointy end.
For the first time in a few years, Cripps have really proved themselves in the south and coming up against the northern teams. Like I said, just got to focus on those 4 consistent quarters.
While the big turnaround has come from Arrows, rising from cellar dweller to a likely finals appearance, assuming all goes to plan in this weekend's closing roster games.
The way we've come from bottom of the ladder all the way up to 4th, I reckon we can just stay there.
And they all hope the silverware will stay with them. A rule breach has given Devon the slightest chance of making the State Netball League finals, but the 2 clear frontrunners are hoping to pass the final regular rounds unscathed. So dominant are the Northern Hawks and Cavaliers, no other team in the competition has come close to beating them this season. And the best Cavaliers could manage so far against their crosstown rival is a draw.
We have played them 3 times now, so every game, you know, we learn a little bit more and a little bit more.
The heartache of last year's decider still raw. Cavs are ready to fire in the first round of finals, especially with Monique Duffy back from injury. The Hawks have had a rocky run with illness, but a feed of under-19 players helps cement the minor premiership.
It signifies how hard we've been working on our club culture.
A penalty to Arrows for playing an underage player means Devon has a sniff of making finals. But the Northwest side will need to win all 8 quarters in this weekend's final 2 games. The fact the side has lifted from easy beat to finals contender makes the players stand taller.
There was a little lull there in our history, But I think we've just kind of ignited a bit of a fire, particularly in our juniors, to think, wow, Devon can actually be the underdog and then come out and potentially win in a couple of years' time.
Cripps Waratah has a lock on third, a full squad and the fire to beat the best come the pointy end.
For the first time in a few years, Cripps have really proved themselves in the south and coming up against the northern teams. Like I said, just got to focus on those 4 consistent quarters.
While the big turnaround has come from Arrows, rising from cellar dweller to a likely finals appearance, assuming all goes to plan in this weekend's closing roster games.
The way we've come from bottom of the ladder all the way up to 4th, I reckon we can just stay there.
And they all hope the silverware will stay with them.
Good evening. Temperatures in the mid-teens across the larger population centres today, while Friendly Beach is our high with 17. St Helens 15, the Bass Strait Islands 14 degrees, Lowhead, Grove, Bushy Park and Strawn 13, Lyawini a high of 6 degrees. Low-level cloud blanketed most of the state today, the east not so much. And that cold air indicated by the speckled cloud is over our region, a frontal band to our southwest, low cloud over the southeast parts of the mainland with a low pressure trough bringing cloud over Queensland and New South Wales. A cold front will cross tomorrow and that'll bring a west-northwesterly change right across Tasmania as the high pressure zone continues over the mainland. As far as the winds go, fairly strong too. We do have winds up to 20 to 30 knots and increasing to 30 to 40 knots over the west and south with 6 metre swells. Gale warning from Wineglass Bay to Sandy Cape, a strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters along with the inland lakes, a minor flood warning for the Meander, Macquarie, North Esk and South Esk rivers. Friday for Hobart, 14 with a shower or two. Huonville the same, 14 and 14 the top for Campania with those showers clearing. A possible shower for Launceston, 15 the maximum, 14 for Devonport, a possible shower and a windy day for Georgetown and 15 there, 14 and a shower or two for Burnie, showers and winds easing from Strawn and 14 the top for Wynyard with a shower there as well. Partly cloudy for St Helens, 15 the maximum, bit of cloud over Swansea but fine and 16 degrees, just 12 for Port Arthur with a morning shower clearing. Saturday partly cloudy over the east and south with a few showers elsewhere. Showers on Sunday more frequent over the west, south and central regions. Snow to 600 metres and snow to lower levels on Monday, along with another shower, mainly over the west and far south. Further north, a mostly sunny in Perth, a shower and 16 in Adelaide, partly cloudy for Melbourne, sunny in Sydney and fine and partly cloudy, 25 in Brisbane. And the current conditions are cloudy. Tom Johnson meant to say too, Kim, that even though the $260 Lionel Messi shirts have sold out, he's got a box full coming for Bali for $5 each.
Thanks very much, Merv. And that's all we have time for tonight. Good night.